is our terminal board. Remember how I said there's nothing on the back of the older style? It's just pathways. This has got a potentiometer on it now. So there is a little bit more on it. This is our terminal where we're wiring our thermostat. This is our smoke shutdown and our occupied. If I was to put that stat in there, I would take off one of these jumpers for occupied, and then also if I've got a building smoke alarm in there, that's where I would wire it there. But what this does, that ECM on the fan generates 10 volts. So it's got three-phase or single-phase power going to it at all times. The module in the motor generates 10 volts. It comes back to our controller on these two terminals. We manipulate that 10 volts and send it back to the motor with our speed selection. And that's key to have that in your head as to where that voltage is coming from for troubleshooting. We determine the voltage by this chart here, and that's going to be on every unit, ships with it, on the high voltage cover. But basically, if we want to set this unit up for 2000 CFM at 0.8 of an inch external, we're going to set this controller up for 8.5 volts. If I've got accessories on it, I'm adding voltage, not static. I've asked them to change that because it just says field accessories and then it gives you that, but that is actually voltage. So if I've got an economizer, I'm going to add 0.1 volts. So now my 8.5 has gone to 8.6. The ABC switch just gives you a range. So if you look down here, A is 4.1 to 7.5, B is 6.9,
5.9,
6.9 to 8.7, and C is 7.7 to 10. So in this application, I'd slide that all the way to C. I'd take my thermostat screwdriver right here with my voltmeter on these two connections and raise that up to 8.7. Now, how many times did we adjust the fan shiv on a startup back in the day? Only when we had a problem, right? If we hit the go button and it cooled and heated the way we thought it should, we weren't rolling that shiv in or out. I want the same mentality of this is, I'm going to ballpark it with this, but I don't know exactly what the external is, even if it's on the schedule. Remember that schedule we looked at? Everything was 1 inch on the ductwork. 1 inch external, 1 inch external. Who got there first, the sprinkler guy or the ductwork guy? Sprinkler guy gets there first, we're taking a curve around that sprinkler, right? or the conduits, or whatever's in the way. Yeah, so our static is like a snowflake. It's always going to be different. This is where we're starting. I can now check my temperature rise, my drops, what kind of suction pressure do I see, commission that unit. And if I've got to tweak it one way or the other, it's obvious it's moving way too much air. You know, it's howling into space. Pulling my screwdriver out and I'm slowing it down that way. Versus taking the motor, sliding it forward, rolling the belt off, taking the Allen wrench out, unloosening the shiv or the set screw on the shiv, rolling it in or out. I'm doing that all with the screwdriver. Life is good. Troubleshooting. We've got a video on troubleshooting this that I'm going to go over real quick. But the mindset, do I have 10 volts coming from that motor to here? So I'm going to put my terminal, my meter right here. Do I have 10 volts there? Do I have 8.7 going out? If I don't have 10 volts, what's my problem? Motor. Something's wrong with that ECM. It's not serviceable. You're ordering a new motor. If I've got 10 volts, but I don't have 8.7 going out, it's my board. If I've got 10 volts coming back, I don't have 8.7 going out, what am I going to do if it's at 7 o'clock at night? Gonna jumper that 10 volts right back. Let it run at 10 volts. I got heat or I got cool that night until I can get a new board on there. That's actually explained in one of our videos, and I've seen it in documents. You can do it right at the Molex plug.
So how do you think of that?
Yeah, you can get creative on that terminal strip, but it's better just to shove wires in that plug. It's 10 volts.
The two-prong plug that goes in.
No, actually, it's the plug, the Molex, so we'll show you that. But one of the biggest things, if I don't have any voltage, I'm checking that plug right away. It rode on the back of a flatbed truck that may have been set up to hold air conditioners. It might be set up to haul steel. So depending on how stiff that suspension was, it either had a nice ride or it bounced a lot coming here. Make sure that plug is seated in. It's real easy for that not to be. Happens 2% of the time, but it's frustrating when it does. That makes sense. How we're getting that voltage and how we're manipulating it and putting it back to the motor. Super simple setup. But again, we're going back to our old school ways of why do we change speed? Why do we have too much air or not enough air is when we're adjusting that. There's those points that we talked about, confirmed 10 volts from the motor, ABC selector, condenser fans, ECM as well.